My very first Aardman production, and Wallace and Gromit production for that matter, I ever saw was The Wrong Trousers. It was one of the films I had on video when I was little, alongside Toy Story 1 and 2, A Bug's Life, and the Paul and Linda McCartney music video collection. Don't ask. As such, this one has a very special place in my heart, and is one that I immediately think of when thinking about Wallace and Gromit. But even in spite of that connection, this is still one of the best things that Aardman has ever done. It's Gromit's birthday, and Wallace gets him a pair of techno trousers, which is really just a way of him getting out of walking Gromit, which might sound harsh and lazy, but Wallace has got his own priorities, most notably that the pair have been running into hard times financially, so he's forced to take a lodger, a mysteriously silent penguin who may have some ulterior motives of his own. The scale of this short compared to A Grand Day Out is spectacular. Where the last short you could tell they only had about 3 sets that felt very enclosed, this special has the whole town opened up to the pair. A very empty town, granted, but with the more lavish environments both indoors and out, much more ambitious camera movements and effects, such as the camera following Wallace as he walks up the wall, and even a POV shot. And despite a more basic premise compared to the previous short, the story is a lot more complex and exciting all throughout, involving separation, a burglary, and a pair of mechanical trousers. Plus, whatever animation flaws that were in the last special have been completely ironed out, and now the process has been completely perfected. The motions are a lot more smooth, there's very few visible fold marks now, it's a lot faster, especially near the end, I'll get to that later, and there's an infinite amount of more detail both in the models and the backgrounds. And overall it just looks a lot more polished now, even with the little things with Wallace and Gromit's ears flapping in the climax due to the speed that they're going at. That's an almost negligible detail, but the fact that they thought of it is so brilliant. There are some small niggles here and there, but they're barely noticeable in the grand scheme of things. It's also a lot more emotional compared to the first short. There's a very tender moment where Gromit leaves Wallace after he feels like he's been rubbed out by the penguin, and it genuinely feels heart-wrenching, especially when you consider that we'd only had one episode of the two so far, so we don't know a lot about them yet, so it would seem completely likely that Gromit would never come back. Speaking of the penguin, he's the next in a line of great Aardman baddies. Going by the name of Feathers McGraw, he's once again a testament to how great a villain can be, even if they don't talk. And while he's not as scary as past and future antagonists, and his lack of eyebrows does give him a rather expressionless face, hell, it makes him look like he's surprised at everything he sees, his diabolical scheme and cold-hearted nature definitely makes him a more memorable villain. Plus, hey, it's an evil penguin. How many other stories have one of those? This was the first Wallace and Gromit short to introduce the now staple of the franchise, Wallace's inventions to help get him up in the morning, since apparently Wallace likes to start the day feeling like he's a marble in a Rube Goldberg machine. But it was a great way of Park expressing his creative abilities and give the Wallace and Gromit shorts a brand new sense of identity that has become its greatest staple, and even becomes a plot point in the short, which is incredibly clever.
It's the wrong trousers. The wrong trousers.
This special also won up the previous short's climax with a bit less tension but a lot more motion, intrigue, and above all, fun. With the duo running around the living room on a toy train track trying to catch Feathers, who's brandishing a gun, which is a pretty intense motif now that I think about it, but it just makes the end set piece all the more exciting. Plus, it's the first time that the two have been in mortal danger. Then again, if they can survive walking around on the moon, they may actually be immortal. It also proves that despite the lengthy and slow process the animation takes, that the end result can still be very fast-paced and fluent. I mean, just look at this. This is some of the fastest animation I've ever seen. Though if you do stop and think for a moment and apply some real-world logic, you realise that this living room to scale would be about 50 feet long. Gromit at some point seems to have 3 arms, and that spare track pieces box must be from the Time Lord since it never goes empty. But hey, it's a cartoon. This feature of the franchise was one of the biggest defining features for the pair, and would be one of Aardman's biggest and most beloved traditions throughout all of its history. It also gave the pair their now stapled iconic looks, with Wallace's wide face and trademark smile and teeth, but with being more well defined than the last special. Even the animation looks a lot better, whereas the first one, due to taking years to make, that had parts that looked very inconsistent from scene to scene, and the motion and designs only look one level up a child could do, this one looks a lot more polished, professional and, the lack for a better term, like a real stop-motion animated movie. What's helped to make that feel, though, is how everything looks like it's had an upgrade, with the style of plasticine Park was using, what he had used to construct the sets with, the quality of the sound recording and the music, the camera work, even the credits look better. Though the special does suffer from the fact that even though the world seems to be more expanded, it still looks like Wallace and Gromit are the only people to inhabit this world, though thankfully they seem to realise that with the future short. Overall, The Wrong Trousers is a brilliant sequel, and it still keeps the overall style of being a very simple slice of life of this very odd duo like the original, but with still a lot of excitement and simple subtle humour, and in my opinion, the best of the Wallace and Gromit franchise. If you only had to view one of them, make it this one.